Some boys grow up quietly, until one quiet choice changes everything. This is the story of a kid, a puppy, and the lunch that saved more than a life. Stay till the end. You won't forget it. Zayan was just 12, living in a quiet, dusty town in Montana, where kids often grew up too soon, and silence was a second language. Their home was modest, a creaky wooden porch, chipped siding, and warmth that came not from heaters, but from a mother's prayers and sacrifices. Every day, Zayan's school lunch was the same: a plain sandwich, a piece of fruit, and if he was lucky, a cookie his mom had saved from her night shift at the diner. She worked hard, too hard, and still managed to pack that little bag with love. School was 15 minutes away by foot. On this morning, after a night of rain, the streets glistened with puddles, the air sharp with cold. Zayan pulled on his worn-out joggers, zipped up his dusty blue hoodie, and tucked his paper lunch bag under his arm. He walked the same path every day, down a narrow alley shortcut behind the thrift store. That morning, halfway through the alley, he heard a soft whimper. There, by a dented trash can, sat a soaking, wet puppy, its fur matted, belly shrunken, eyes wide with hunger. It didn't bark, it didn't growl, it just sat there, waiting for something kind to happen. Zayan froze. He looked at his lunch, then back at the puppy. His stomach grumbled, but something deeper tugged harder. He knelt beside the puppy. Quietly, he opened his paper bag, pulled out his sandwich, and placed it gently in front of the animal. "It's not much," he whispered, "but it's yours." The puppy hesitated, then slowly crawled toward the food and began to eat. Zayan sat beside him for a moment. He didn't say anything else. He didn't expect a reward. That day at school, he didn't eat lunch. When his friends asked, he shrugged. "I'm just not hungry today." But the next morning, he brought half of his breakfast wrapped in foil. And the next day after that, and every day that week, the puppy began to recognize him. As soon as Zayan turned into the alley, the little guy would rush over, tail wagging, bouncing with joy. Zayan named him Rocket. Rocket became his routine, his friend, his reason to smile. But one morning Rocket wasn't there. Zayan's heart dropped. He checked behind trash bins, under crates, down the alley. Nothing. That night, he couldn't sleep. Something felt wrong. The next morning, he got up early and wandered the alley again. That's when he heard it. Barely audible, a weak whimper. Behind a broken fence, hidden under a pile of leaves, Rocket lay still. Something was lodged in his leg, and his breathing was shallow. Zayan didn't hesitate. He took off his hoodie, wrapped Rocket in it, and ran all the way home. He cried. "Please, he's hurt." His mom opened the door and gasped. "Zayan, where did this dog come from?" "I've been feeding him every day," he whispered. "Please don't let him die." She stared at her son for a long second, then knelt beside Rocket. She didn't ask more questions. She didn't scold. She simply said, "Get the car." They couldn't afford a vet visit, but they called every clinic nearby. One elderly veterinarian, Mr. Simmons, answered personally. "Bring him in, son," he said. Sometimes compassion doesn't wait for payment. Rocket was treated, stitched up, and kept under care for 3 days. Zayan visited him every afternoon, and when Rocket opened his eyes for the first time after surgery, Zayan smiled. "You're okay now, right?" Rocket licked his fingers, then let out the softest bark, as if saying, "Now I am." And from that moment forward, everything changed. Rocket now lived with Zayan. His mom made him a small bed out of old towels. They bought him kibble from the dollar store. And every day, Zayan called him by a new nickname: Superdog, Captain Rocket, or sometimes just Buddy. Then one day at school, a big announcement was made. Compassion Day Story Contest, the principal said. Write a true story about kindness that changed you, or someone else. Zayan hesitated. Then, he began writing. He poured his entire heart into the essay. He called it, "The Lunch That Found Me a Friend." He wrote about the alley, the sandwich, the injury, the fear, the hope. He wrote not like a kid, but like someone who had been changed. When he turned it in, he didn't expect much. A week later, the principal called him up during assembly. Zayan Odd has not only won the contest, his story is going to be published in National Youth Magazine. Applause thundered across the room. Teachers clapped, students cheered, and the best part, Zayan's mom had brought Rocket to school that day, just in case he won. The crowd went wild when the small dog bounced onto stage, tail wagging, licking Zayan's hand. That moment, it became the talk of the town. But it didn't stop there. A local nonprofit called Hearts and Homes Shelter read Zayan's story in the magazine. They reached out and invited him to speak at their fundraising gala. Zayan panicked. "I'm just a kid, what would I even say?" His mom knelt beside him. "You'll speak from your heart." That's where it all began. At the event, Zayan stepped onto the stage in a borrowed shirt and oversized shoes. Rocket sat at his feet, and in front of hundreds he began an chore. There was a puppy. Cold, wet, and starving. No one saw him, but I did. I gave him my lunch. That's all I had. I didn't do it to be a hero. I did it because I knew what it felt like to be invisible. Rocket gave me more than friendship. He gave me purpose. The room was silent. And then, the applause rose like a wave. Donations poured in. The shelter reached its funding goal. A new rescue wing was announced. And when it came time to name it, they called it the Rocket House. Zayan became their youngest ambassador. He and Rocket visited schools, gave talks, encouraged students to choose kindness, even when no one's watching. And every time someone asked him, "How did it all start?" he'd smile and say, "Sure, I just skipped lunch one day." If this story touched your heart, please subscribe. This channel isn't just about stories, it's about what happens when you choose kindness. Even the smallest act can lead to the biggest change. One sandwich, one moment, one miracle. Subscribe now for more true, powerful stories that remind us who we can be. Because in this world, kindness is still the most powerful superpower.